All right, well, welcome to the NAGC Annual Conference here in Orlando, Florida. I'm Ann Robinson, member of NAGC, past president, and with me this morning is Dr. Dean Camilla Benbow, the Patricia and Rhodes Hart Dean of Peabody College at Vanderbilt University. She's been a longtime member of NAGC, and we are so happy to have you with us this morning.
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, thank you for being with us. You know, Camilla, you have one of the, if not the longest running longitudinal studies on giftedness and talent development in the world. And you're passing some important milestones this year in many ways. So tell me, what do you think are the most important findings that have been coming out of your 50-year longitudinal study? Because you've hit the news in a big way this year, haven't you?
Yes. Well, you know, there are lots of things one could mention, but I think for this group, for NAGC, and for everyone who cares about gifted children, I would say that the most compelling and most important finding is the one on educational interventions. In our longitudinal study, we have been tracking kids now for over 40 years. And one of our studies that we looked at was to see, or actually we have several studies that looked at this issue. Those kids who participated in challenging educational activities, the kinds of things that NAGC advocate for, 40 years later, do they do better in life than those who didn't participate? And we did a whole bunch of matching so that it's not a control group, but there's a comparison group. But they were matched, say, in some of the studies on 14 variables, so pretty well matched. Anyway, 40 years later, we could pick up the effects of those educational interventions, and we could definitely say that those kids who participated in educational interventions did better in life than those individuals who did not. And this is measuring them 40 years later. And it isn't just that they got an early start, and so they have a little bit of a head start on the other kids. They continue to achieve at a higher level throughout their adult lives. There's a boost, and that boost keeps going.
It's the gift that keeps giving, or
yes,
or the power drink that keeps you going all through the trajectory.
Absolutely. And you know what? Very few programs in education have evaluations of their effectiveness. They look at the time and say, did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you benefit? But no one has data to show that what they did has an impact 30 to 40 years later. And I think this is the most powerful thing for this group to know, that what we do does make a difference, and that when we go and advocate for funding and support for gifted kids, this is the evidence we need.
And you've provided it, and thank you. Let's dig down just a little bit, because you've got a whole set of outcomes that you looked at for these interventions. And so some outcomes you see in the short term, and some, as you said, 40 years later. That's quite a track record.
Yeah.
Want to name a couple here?
Well, we looked at, of course, educational achievement. We looked at professional accomplishments, the level of their careers. We looked at creativity, indicators of creativity, like patents, scientific articles, and we looked at income. And all of these variables show a boost for having participated in these programs. So it's not just that these programs affect educational outcomes. It affects occupational success. It affects creativity. It affects incomes. You name it, which variable are you interested in? It gave a boost.
Those are stunning results. And they're stunning results, I like to think about it this way, they're stunning results with a lot of staying power.
That's correct.
A lot of staying power. So that
the differences were not small, and they were based on thousands of individuals. So that's pretty rigorous and pretty relevant.
And pretty wonderful, if I do say so myself. Well, speaking of longitudinal here, you have had a very distinguished and lengthy association with the National Association for Gifted Children over time.
I guess I have.
So we're going to tell a story on you to bring a personal example to life. Dr. Benbow was the first early scholar awarded that accolade by NAGC. And that was an exciting event in your life, I'm sure. And look, I would say it had great predictive power.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. And at that time of my life, what a boost it was for me to be recognized at that young age. So
Yes.
that was my first award, and it's very special and near to my heart because of that. So, yeah.
Well, we're glad you came back to visit us later and show that indeed that award really did have all the great predictive power that you always expect out of your studies.
I don't know. But, let me say one more thing before we wrap up, because I know people want to move on, is that, one of the other important findings that I'd like to mention, there's a couple of things that I'll just say it out quick. One thing is, what we found in our longitudinal study is that more ability is better. Many people think about a threshold effect for ability. That is not true, and I think that's also good for advocacy. Yes, other things are important, but if you hold those things constant, more ability is better. The other thing is, in terms of choosing your career, where you go in, it's all relative. If you're better within yourself, math, you'll go into the STEM areas. If you have stronger verbal areas, then you'll go into the verbal areas. It doesn't matter what your level of ability is. It's that you are within yourself. But how far you go is determined by your level of ability, which I think is pretty interesting. The other thing that I like to mention is, since we're females here, you know what? The Determined study really could only assess the career paths of talented men, because the women in those times had so few opportunities. Yes, some succeeded, but it's in spite of everything. But we have grown up in a time where there are more opportunities. There may still be a glass ceiling, but it is still have more opportunities. So it's been fun to look at our gifted females in a time when they have had some educational and occupational opportunities. And it's interesting to see that the way our gifted men construct their lives is different than the way our gifted women construct their lives. Men will say what's important is to make a major accomplishment, to earn a lot of money, to become famous. The women will say in our study, that's important to me, but in addition, family is important, my friendship is important, my community is important, and my spiritual life is important. And so what we're seeing is that the men in our study are basically career focused, and the women are career focused, but also focused on all of these different things. And it just says that for women to build a satisfactory life, they have to have all of these variables in play. So it is very interesting to see how we women have constructed different lives, but we're equally satisfied in the end. The men and the women are equally satisfied with their careers, with their family, their personal development, yet they have constructed those lives very differently.
I think that's a fabulous point, and I'm glad you brought it out. I have one final question to ask of you, because you have been, you and your life partner have been absolute leaders in this field. Spatial ability.
Yeah.
It's an underrepresented and underappreciated ability. Tell us the soundbite you'd like us to know about that, because it matters, doesn't it?
It does matter. I think that we are missing one group of highly gifted kids, and these are the kids who are spatially gifted. We are picking up the math talented, we're picking up the verbally talented, but those individuals whose primary talent is in spatial, we are missing. And that's a loss to our society. In a highly technological world that we're living in today, these individuals can become great engineers. But because we're missing them, we're not fostering their development, and they're developing identities that, I'm not maybe college material, and so on, or they have lower aspirations. And I think the challenge for us here as a community is that we got to find ways to identify those kids and provide them appropriate educational opportunities, because our curriculum is so verbally loaded in our K-12 schools that those kids get lost because they like to work with their hands, they're visual. And to me, that's our challenge, is to is to identify that missing group of kids and work with them.
And I think we can do that if we give them experiences in engineering early.
Absolutely.
Because children can understand engineering principles and the design process before they can spell engineer.
Absolutely. And they love doing it because it's a lot of fun.
It is fun. So thank you for being with us today. It's wonderful, and we're delighted that you had time to stop by for a chat, and NAGC is thrilled to have you here, as am I.
Great
to see you.